Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show. This is your weekend preview looking ahead to the racing over the weekend at Haydock and at the Curragh, where it is, of course, the Irish Guineas weekend. I'm your host, George Elek. I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Holding as we whistle through 5 or 6 of those best races over the weekend and get Andy's thoughts on the others over the course of Saturday and Sunday too. Andy, how are you getting on?
Yeah, okay. Patchy in May so far. I'd have to confess to that. Really good April, very strong April. Probably one of the best Aprils for a long time. But May's been a bit of a up and down month. Started off okay, and then just kind of like treading water really in the last few days. And had a nice winner the other day. Nice 11. Actually went out to 11-1 from my advice of 5-1 in the morning, which is a little bit of a rarity. But hopefully 1 or 2 are on betsides guarantee. But yeah, it's been a struggle. No real obvious reason why, but I think we're now beginning to get to the period in the summer where the ground's finally drying out. We're not getting another that tacky, horrible ground that we've been having after the rain came and then obviously dried up. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why a few of the results were a little bit dodgy. But no excuses from here on in, George.
Good, glad to hear it. I saw a very amusing Twitter account, Icy, that I think most people will know of who are on social media who watch this, did a poll a couple of days ago saying there are 5 days left in May. What answer best reflects your chances of showing a profit on racing for the month? There were over 1,000 votes and 59% voted 0% what's a winner. So Andy, if you're treading water, I think that means you're ahead of the field. Strokes gained on the rest of the field over the course of May.
No, that seems to be the theme. I went similar to that chat room. I'm in one myself with 1 or 2 pro punters, and they've all had the same kind of difficulties as well. So if anyone is doing well in May, I'm sure there's going to be a few out there that managed to find a few, and good luck to them. But yeah, it has been a quite taxing month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably if you're backing losers in May, you might be backing the right horses by the sounds of things. Let's get into the weekend's racing. We'll kick off at Haydock. We wanted to preview more of the racing at the Curragh over Saturday and Sunday, but no prices as of yet. Bookies over here always a bit slower to price up the antipo stuff. So we're recording this on Wednesday early afternoon. So this is before final decks, meaning that if you do back a horse that we put up before final decks on either Thursday afternoon for the most part or Friday afternoon, then that will be a loser rather than money back for being a non-runner. But we'll kick off with the Silver Bowl, where Covey is the 5-1 favourite ahead of Local Dynasty at 6-1, Age of Kings 8-1 alongside Gincident, 10-1, Ben Acre and Royal Cape. And Defence of Fort, who is a Sea of Blue, as short as 11-2, but 10-1 still with Coral and Labrooks. 12-1, Self-Acclaimed, Saxon King and Abu Royal, 14-1 bar those, Andy.
Yeah, no doubt that many will be looking towards Covey here from the John and Lady Gosden stable. Sexy horse, won his last 2, looked really impressive. He's done a couple of half-decent numbers. More he's back in sectionals rather than his overall times. It suggests he's got a really good engine. Just don't know where we sit with him at the moment. He could literally be a Group 2, Group 1 horse, who knows? But only the fullness of time will tell. Interesting as money for Defence of Fort. He was a horse I put up at the Guineas meeting. I think he was one of my last penultimate tips on that particular Saturday. But unfortunately, as you remember, the rains came and it meant that the connections were a little bit windy about that and they pulled him out. There's no forecast of any conditions similar to this weekend, any rain. So he's a decent horse in the making, that Defence of Fort. He won very well first time out at Ascot, if you recall. Then he went to Sandown to tackle Listed Company, and he just pulled way too hard. He gave himself no chance. Similar comments apply to his last run. But off a mark of 88, if they're thinking along the lines that he is a group horse in the making, that was very much the theory last year. He could be very well treated. A lot depends, of course, where he's drawn. We don't know. That's the only problem with me tipping horses this far out when you've got such an important bit of information missing. I'd imagine there'll be a maximum field here. I think the maximum field is, 16 odd or something like that at Haydock. And if I go and tip something that's drawn 16 to 16, then this becomes negligible, really. So I'd definitely have a look at Defence of Fort if he gets a low draw. And the other one is James McHenry. Now, he falls into the category of being a little bit of an unsung hero at this very moment in time. I still think he's a little under the radar, and that's largely due to the fact he's trained by Ed Bether. But Ed's quickly establishing himself as a real go-to Saturday trainer or big day trainer. He's not to be underestimated in any way, shape or form. And he got the job done here at this track a couple of weeks ago, if you recall. He did it as well against a track bias because it very much suited horses kicking off the front, as he often does at Haydock. I think it was Conservationist which got first run on him 2 weeks ago, but he didn't half impressed with the way he got his head down and battled. And the fact that he's won around the track as well suggests to me that he could be very upwardly mobile and one to keep an eye on. He's got a little bit of a round action, which might just temper the enthusiasm if it is really rattling, but hopefully they'll, water to suit, as they often do at Haydock. So he's one to consider as well. So those would be my two early thoughts. Defensive thought, certainly see why there's money for him. And the course and distance specialist, James McHenry, is definitely a horse to keep on the right side of.
James McHenry, sounds similar to an Oxford player called James Henry, is 14 to 1. That's with Sky Bet, Paddy Power, Betfair Sportsbook, and defensive thought 10 to 1, Ladbrokes and Coral. On to the Sandy Lane Stakes now, where Little Big Bear is the 5 to 2 favourite. Again, a sea of blue on the oddschecker grid, to short 7 to 4 in places, but 5 to 2 with 888 Sport, Coral, Bet UK, and VBet. Bradsell is 3 to 1, Cold Case 4 to 1, Mischief Magic 7 to 1, Matilda Picot 7 to 1, 15 to 2, Al Dasim 14 to 1 bar. Yeah,
he was one of a few that disappointed in the Guineas, understandably so as well, for many reasons. The ground went against him. This is Little Big Bear we're talking about. Saki was another one. There was a few other 6 furlong sprinters that were trying to be manufactured into milers, and that often is the case, isn't it, with these big yards, trying to make them something that they're not meant to be, almost, I always feel. And that very much turned out to be the case with Little Big Bear. Pulled too hard. He was running at a pace that wasn't suitable for him. He likes to go flat out. And he won the Windsor Castle last year on 5 at Ascot. So it was going to be difficult to get him to train his mind to run over a mile. Connections have quickly realised that he is a sprinter. And you'd imagine that the Commonwealth Cup will be firmly at the back of their mind in another month's time. But this is a nice stepping stone towards that. This is almost like a Commonwealth Cup trial race in many respects. It'll have a lot of the horses that we're going to be expecting to turn up at the Royal Meeting, such as Bradsell, of course, won last year's Coventry. Matilda Picot, I presume that she'll come over. She's a very fast Met filly. She's already won over this side of the RSC as well at Newmarket last year. And then you chuck in Cold Case as well, and you've got a real mouth-watering affair. I do like Cold Case. I think he's a bit of an unsung hero. He's one of these horses that just gets on with it. Won the Red Car 2-year-old trophy. Then he won first time at Ascot, beating Bradsell. He's just granite tough, travels well, no nonsense. Got a push button turn of foot, and he stays really well. If you can get an each way price about him on the day, and that's always open to conjecture, isn't it, depending on the field size, he would be the way I'd be going here. Also, a healthy mention would go out to Charing if he turned up here. He didn't handle the ground in the Guineas. He's also in the Irish 2000 as well as we speak, but he is jocked up here with Dave Egan to perhaps run here, and he would look a big price at 16 to 1 if Connections decided to lower his sights a little bit from going in the Guineas, because I do think he's a sprinter rather than a miler. He won over the C&D last year, and he's running against Isaac Shelby, of course, in the green, and suggests that distances around 7 or 6 furlongs are going to be ideal for him this season. So Cold Case and Charing in that order would be my way of thinking in the Sandy Lane.
Cold Case, 4 to 1 with Paddy's, Betfair, Bet Victor, Coral, Betfred, Boyles, Take Your Pick, Star Sports, and others too. 16 to 1 is best price Charing with Coral. Short as 8 to 1 in other places. So make sure you do shop around. 7 to 1 with Sky Bet, Charing is. Finally, at Haydock on Saturday, we've got the Temple Stakes here. The Platinum Queen is the 3 to 1 favourite. Again, Paddy Power go 13 to 8. Bet UK go 6 to 4. So massive discrepancy in terms of pricing here for the Platinum Queen at 3 to 1. Dramatised is 4 to 1. Twilight Calls 9 to 2. Royal Acclaim is 5 to 1. Live in a Dream 7 to 1. Happy Romance 8 to 1. 10 to 1. Mit Bahi 11 to 1. Bar those.
Yeah, I think a lot depends here, George, which one of these two really speedy 3-year-old fillies in the shape of the Platinum Queen will dramatise on the money first time out. They were both upwardly mobile all the way through their 2-year-old campaign. The Platinum Queen, of course, rounded it off with a victory over in France, didn't she? Handling softest conditions. Interesting that new connections are centred to Roger Varian, obviously having been sold for a pretty a pretty penny at the sales from the Midland Park setup, and they'll want an instant return, won't they, on their investment? She's just very, very fast, the Platinum Queen. We got her doing some extraordinary times last season, but to be fair, so did Dramatised. She hardly let the side down, and York was only a slight blip on the on her CV, but as we've talked many times on the podcast, York is York, isn't it? It throws up some funny results, and not all horses handle it. But a great run over in Keeneland, of course, on our final run of the season. Fast ground is very much in her favour, and again at the prices, if you could get something each way about Dramatised, you'd like to think that you'd at least get your money back. And of course, we know she goes really well fresh. She won first time out last year as a 2-year-old. So the two classy fillies, 3-year-old fillies down the bottom, look as though they've got all bases covered here, with my preference being Carl Burke's Dramatised.
Dramatised 4-1 again, pretty much across the board. A couple of races to tick off over in Ireland, starting with the Irish 2,000 Guineas, where Royal Scotsman is the 5-2 favourite ahead of High Royal at 7-2. Paddington is 4-1, best price. Proud and Regal 11-2, Galeron 9-1, Cairo 14-1, Knight 16-1, Charon we've already mentioned dropped up at Haydock, but still in here at 16-1. Karshamar, Age of Kings both 16-1, Bold Discovery 25-1, Alexander John 250-1. Andy, so yeah, as we said at the top, we don't necessarily know who's going to turn up here, but as the market has it at the moment, who's your fancy?
Well, I think Royal Scotsman has to be given a great deal of respect and credit for his run in the Guineas. It's been well documented how hard he pulled in the early stages, almost pulled his chance away, or theoretically should have done, but the fact that he kept on as well as he did is testament to the horse's mental fortitude and his ability as well. And he had no right to finish third. He should have finished where sort of like the Augustine Rodans of this world finished. But he did beat his group of, I think it was 5, by a long, long way. So you'd be hard pressed to argue against him being favourite here. I think sort of, is it top price 5-2? Is it in and around that mark?
Yeah.
5-2. That looks fair enough. To counter argue that, obviously you've got to hope that he doesn't do it again. I mean, if he pulled hard in the Guineas, what's to say that he doesn't go over there and pull hard again? But once horses start racing keenly and throwing their head around, they tend to sort of, revert to type more often than not. One of the sort of like failings in my selection process sometimes when I look back and thought, I can't believe I picked that because it pulled hard last time. I thought he's, well, in a stronger race, in a better race, it'll settle and it'll be okay, but it doesn't always work out. So with that in mind, I'll probably look for something from an each-way perspective. I respect Paddington. I think there's more to come from him. He's been very much trained under the radar by Aidan O'Brien, but he's going to go from a listed race winning the Tetrarch to Group 1 company. And if Aidan thinks he's a Group 1 horse, and who are we to argue? His times have been okay. They haven't been anything off the scale. It's been the man who's done them. He's done them in the style of a horse that's got loads more to come. And I think the better the race, the better the horse he'll be. I'd imagine that Ryan Moore will choose him. The one I'd probably plump for at the prices would be Proud and Regal. Donnacha O'Brien has had a really good start to this season. He's been winning with older horses and 2-year-olds as well. Just thought 1.25 miles, first time out on heavy ground in the Derby trial race, probably was a little bit of a bridge too far for him. They probably looked at his form last year and saw he won on heavy ground towards the back end of last season, of course, in St. Cloud, and thought, well, he wants to test the stamina. Well, that might well be the case, but not probably on heavy ground first time out. But dropping back to a mile at a track where, of course, I think he holds probably one of the best peaks of form. Second in the National Stakes to Al Rifa. I mean, that's pretty much hard to beat, isn't it? And the fact that he has run here at the Curragh has got to stand him in good stead. Miles should be absolutely no problem. He should be fine on the ground. The ground will be good. Yeah, he ticks a lot of boxes, Proud and Regal. Hard to see him not running well, so he'd be my percentage call.
Proud and Regal 11-2, Sky Bet, Paddy's 888, a couple of others there too. For Proud and Regal, an each way play against the field. And in the 1,000 Guineas, Tahiyra, who lost very little in defeat behind Morge as they pulled 7 lengths clear of the rest of the field in the 1,000 Guineas. A Newmarket a couple of weeks ago heads the market out 4-7, Meditate 7-1 alongside Never Ending Story, who's the same price, Jackie O and Tarawa, both 12-1, Eternal Silence 16-1, Yosemite and Aspen Grove both 25-1. But Andy, can you see past the hot favourite in the Irish 1,000 Guineas?
Not really, no, George. I'd love to come up with something more original to say, that what a lot of punters and bookmakers and judges alike are already thinking, that Tahiyra, along with Maud's, are two very, very special fillies. I think it was a better race of the two, arguably, over the weekend, over the Guineas weekend. The 2,000 Guineas was a little bit inconclusive with the rain coming and not so many horses turning up, but the two that dominated the 1,000 Guineas pulled miles clear of what I thought was a really good field. Looked a very competitive renewal of the Fillies Classic, and the time figure as well was much better than the 2,000 Guineas furlong per furlong. So I think we're dealing with two good horses, and you look at the sectional times as well that Tahiyra posted on that occasion. She was by far the quickest, sort of from the 3 to the 2 to the 1, and it was only that last sort of like 50 to 100 yards when her petrol gauge flashed on empty. And if you remember rightly, Dermot Well was just saying that he thought the Guineas might just come a bit too soon for her. He thought she was probably good enough to get away with it, and that's why he rolled the dice. Dermot Well wouldn't waste any bullets unless he thought that his horses were going to be good enough to win, and he was almost proved right. But I think he'll get his compensation here. She's obviously very good at the Curragh. She was devastating when she beat Mediate. Media's always get that name mixed up in the Moy Glare. And her numbers just stack up. So that went under her belt. And if Dermot is saying that she needed 3 or 4 more weeks to be right, well, he's got 3 weeks under her belt now. And with the sun coming on her back, you'd imagine she'll be thriving for this weekend. So yeah, like I say, a little bit of an unoriginal selection, but hopefully she'll justify favouritism.
Anything else for us? As we said, we wanted to do a bigger Curragh preview, but no prices. But I'm sure there are a couple of horses that you can point listeners and viewers out to over the course of the weekend over in Ireland. Yeah,
I've done my best. I'll probably concentrate on Saturday. Sunday I'll deal with that at a future date. But yeah, there's a couple of nice races. The Marlborough Hill is a really good heat for the 2-year-olds. A lot of them just had the one run, so difficult to line them all up. But I've been very impressed with a couple. Not Shane Magica, won very impressively at Cork first time out. Clocked a big number for the Paddy Toomey stable. Was due to run, I think, a few weeks ago, but the rain came and that rather dissuaded Connections to roll the dice that day. But I think they're going to get the conditions this weekend. I think he might be the one in that race there, although he's up against some good horses there. Buccaneer Fuati was impressive first time out. Also got Buy-in. He's a nice horse. And I know Brian's got several to choose from, including course and distance winner Democracy and His Majesty, who I think will improve markedly from stepping up to 5 to 6. But I'd go with Noche Magica. In the Greenland Stakes, keep an eye on Garrus from the Charlie Hill stable. If he goes over, he was very good last time out. Of course, when he beat Creative Force, the ill-fated Creative Force, I should say, at Newmarket first time out, I think that form stands out. In the 305, Paddy Toomey's got another horse here called Final Gesture. She was very impressive last time out at Gowran, clocking a big number when she beat a field of decent fillies by at least 4 lengths or upwards. I don't think that's a particularly strong listed race there in the 305, so I think she'll probably win that. Interesting couple of handicaps later on, most notably the Premier Handicap at 450. I'll just mention a couple here. Velna was very strongly fancied for the Paddy Toomey stable first time out at Gowran. He didn't quite live up to his reputation that day. I think he was sent off 94 favourite, but he looked as though he needed the run. He's got a really good time figure next to his name over today's course and distance there last season. So with that in mind, with him having a run under his belt, he could be very, very interesting in that particular race. And we've also got a horse called Vega Magnifico in there as well. Not sure which one of these two will run, but if they both run, then maybe a split stakes strategy might be the order of the day, because he caught the eye first time out in a good race at Limerick when he was doing all his best work at the end, at the late work at the end. And I think he'll appreciate stepping back up in trip. Of course, that race the other day was a mile. All his best form last season was a mile and a quarter. So 2 good advices there, hopefully, in that 450, Vega Magnifico and Velna.
Great stuff. There you go. Get your pen out, and prices are out on probably Friday, and go through that last section. I'm sure a couple of nuggets in there from Andy. Thanks very much, Andy, as ever, for sharing your tips and insight with us. Have a great weekend. Thank you guys for watching. Do make sure you download the oddschecker app, where you can find the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, and Andy's tips straight to the app every single morning ahead of racing. And do subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel, where you can find plenty more oddschecker betting shows as we go throughout the summer. Many thanks. Enjoy the racing, both sides of the Irish Sea. We'll be back very, very soon to preview more weekend racing. But please do ensure in the meantime that you gamble responsibly.